This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
After Seattle Seahawks games this season, we'll be kicking the week off with a look at Pro Football Focus and their grading. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We have made it to the final week before the start of the regular season. We've got a real football game in just a few days. We've got a Seahawks game in less than a week. So I want to start talking about my plans for how this channel is going to cover Seahawks stuff during the season. And you guys know I like to have scheduled content every week, so you guys have at least some idea of the kind of things I'm going to be putting out there after every Seahawks game. So this year I'm going to be introducing a little bit of a new segment because I did it during the preseason and people seemed to really like it. It seemed to resonate with people. Those videos did very well. So this year we're going to be doing two different things on Monday. And the other weekly video on Monday is one that if you've been on the channel for a while, you already know. But we're going to be starting the week off with a look at Pro Football Focus. And I just want to walk through what that's going to look like real quick so you guys understand, because I think that it would be easy to assume that we're just going to look at the grades and draw conclusions from them, when I'm going to try to go a little bit beyond that, because just looking at PFF grades and trying to draw conclusions from them is almost certainly a mistake and not something that I would recommend that any football fan does. So we'll run through that in this video. But first, before we talk about what we're going to be doing in this weekly series, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetUS, because the football season is just about to start and the Seahawks have a game in just less than a week. So now's the time, guys. If you want to get on over there, if you want to start throwing down some wagers, the Denver Broncos versus Seattle Seahawks opener is now live on the site. You can just bet money line. You can bet on a 5.5 point spread. The Seahawks are going to beat the Broncos by at least 6 points, right? You got to feel pretty good about that. You got over-unders. You got game props you can pull up over there. Where do you think the first score is going to be? What do you think the result is going to be? What's the winning margin? Who's going to do what when? Who's going to score a touchdown then? Is this guy scoring? Is that guy scoring? Get on over to BetUS, throw down wagers on just about anything. They boast the fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits, 200% crypto deposit bonus, fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. Use the link down in the description if you want to know more. Get on over to BetUS, give them a shot. Okay, so going back to PFF here. So everyone knows on a general level what PFF offers. What they're trying to do is they're trying to individually evaluate every player that plays in a football game. And they look at every snap that every player plays, and they assign a grade to every player's performance on a scale of 1 to 100 on each play, and then they average it out into an overall grade for that game. And that turns into an eventual overall grade for the month. And there are categories as well. If you're an offensive player, for instance, you get graded on passing plays, you get graded on running plays, you get graded on your pass blocking, you get graded on your run blocking, and this all comes together to form what should be a score from 1 to 100 that signifies how good you did that particular day or that particular season. So that's the basic level of PFF. And it's cool what they're doing. It is. I want to stress that. But we all know, if we've been looking at PFF for long enough, anybody who looks at PFF long enough will know they're going to produce results that don't really make any sense. They're going to produce results that ignore context in a way that is very clearly not meaningful or helpful to people who are trying to understand the game and understand what they're looking at. We know that sometimes they just miss, and there are things that PFF will even admit that they miss on. Like, for instance, zone coverage. They've admitted that when it comes to players that play in zone coverage, like Quandre Diggs was a big recipient of this, it's really hard for them to know what the player was supposed to do So therefore, they can't really evaluate whether or not the player did what they needed to do correctly because who knows where they were supposed to be. So understand that we're going to be looking at Pro Football Focus and we're going to be definitely taking them seriously, but we're not necessarily going to take them literally. So we're going to look at the gradings each week, and as you can see, PFF does a ton of different things with their grades. You can actually just offense, you have passing, receiving, rushing, blocking, bunch of individual defensive metrics like run defense, pass rush, coverage, special teams. So there are a bunch of different layers that we can dissect here, but we're also going to understand that just because PFF says it doesn't make it true. And when we get to something that really doesn't make sense, doesn't pass the smell test, we are probably going to spend a little bit of time talking about it, talking about why that result came up, and trying to understand why they got that. And sometimes we're going to conclude that, oh, they came to this conclusion because they were missing context. They came to this conclusion because of this thing that happened that ultimately doesn't really matter. But as far as PFF is concerned, it's trying to be context proof. So it seems like it matters. And we're going to be as fair as we can about stuff like that, right? So when it comes to the grading, we're going to see some stuff that we agree with. We're going to see some stuff that doesn't make sense. And we're going to dissect it all. And we're going to take it into this big mosaic of our understanding of the Seattle Seahawks. So they post these grades shortly after every game. Sometimes it'll be the same day. Sometimes it'll be the day after. More than likely, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the gradings. We're going to look at the subjective score that they give the players. But honestly, more interesting sometimes could be something like the objective numbers. Like, I'm not a big fan of PFF's pressure numbers, but we can look at those. See which players are generating pass rush. Although I do much prefer PFR's evaluation of that. We'll take a look at some stuff with like the blocking. Who's allowing pressures? Who's getting it done as a run blocker? And there's some really cool stuff we could go super granular on. Like, for instance, in the receiving category, you can go receiving matchups, and PFF will actually show you what each player did when in a certain matchup with another defensive player. Like, for instance, you can see what did JSN do when defended by Cameron Mitchell. Now, that was the only defender he actually played against in the Browns game. And then you got something like DK Metcalf. What did he do when defended by Grant Delpit versus what did he do versus Justin Hardy? And this will be something that you can look at for every game for the 2024 season. So that will be kind of cool. That will be something that will be fun to look at in, I think, pretty much every game that happens. So, rushing direction to get an idea of which parts of the offensive line are getting it done, run blocking, and which ones maybe aren't. So I don't want to step on all of the videos that are going to be published throughout the week, like Pass Rush Friday, Pass Coverage Thursday, and I don't really like PFF's methodology for getting to those numbers anyway, but they can be a part of a bigger picture. I'll put it to you that way. Now, we're going to have to split the PFF video into two parts, offense and defense, because there's too much stuff to go through in one video, I think, especially in the regular season when this stuff really, really matters a lot more. So what's probably going to happen is there's going to be a PFF offense video and then a PFF defense video a couple hours later in the day. You guys know how I space out my videos. I try to give at least each video a couple hours. Now, it really depends on when PFF publishes their findings. It depends on if they publish it maybe the night of the game. Like, let's say we're playing the Broncos this week at 1 o'clock. Game's going to be done by like 4:30. And does PFF get their stuff out at 10 p.m. that night, midnight, or not until the next morning? And that will kind of affect whether or not I'm able to get the video out in time. Like, for instance, the snap count stuff. How many snaps each player played, that typically doesn't come out until the next morning. So I don't usually get the video out about that until a little bit later on Monday, because I already have a video that I want to put up on Monday morning that isn't that, because we don't have the data for it the previous night. So what might happen most days is that you'll have a morning video on Monday after games, obviously. If we don't play on Sunday, then everything goes out the door here. But after the day after the game, probably going to be a morning video that isn't anything that is completely predictable or schedulable. It'll probably just have some general feel from the most recent game, like some quick snap reaction to some theme or some things that happened in the most recent game. And it could be one of many different things depending on the week. And then we're going to, a couple hours later, PFF offense, couple hours later, PFF defense, couple hours later, snap count Monday, and then a couple hours later could be like some kind of injury update if we had some significant injury fallout from the previous day's game. So I'll talk more about snap count Monday later for those of you who are new to the channel, but I wanted to introduce this PFF idea, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see if people like it. Again, I want to stress this is not going to be me presenting PFF grades and just saying, this is what PFF says, so obviously this is the case. I don't believe that. I don't think anybody should believe that. And I think that we should seek to understand why PFF got to a certain conclusion and still possibly be open to rejecting that conclusion. All right, so it's going to be 2 more videos on Monday every week, or the day after the game, I should say. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be good to look at. I'm going to try to find the things that are interesting and notable about each game, and that will get us started on the week. See you guys a little bit later today with my second weekly series that goes public every Monday or the day after a game. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you feel about all this. Catch y'all later. Go Hawks. Thank you once again to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Always gamble responsibly.